In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to work on and complete the questions for the graphic organizer for Article 2 in Assignment 2. So as usual, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to www.springisd.org to access our Assignment 2. We go to the district homepage, we click on Empowered Learning at Home, then we navigate to 6th grade. After that, we're going to click Communicating for Global Change. This will bring up all of the assignments. And we're going to scroll down to assignment number 2. It's on page 3. Here we are, the comprehension graphic organizer. It's going to prompt us to make a copy. Okay. When we click make a copy, it's going to open the document that looks like this. It has the Article 1 here with questions for Article 1. We completed that already, and now we're looking at Article 2 with the questions here. Okay, so the way that we access, well, Article 2 is titled Passports to the American Dream, Mounting Debt, Few Opportunities, Keep Guatemalans Coming. So that's the article title. We access the article by right-clicking and selecting. This one comes up a little differently. It's not an actual website. We talked about this in the previous video. So you have to copy and paste from this document. You remember you want to select the article all the way to the bottom and right click copy, and then when you go back to your assignment, you're going to navigate your cursor so that it is between the article title up here and the questions and answers down here. And then you're going to align it so it's left, and you're going to right click paste without formatting. So this will help so that you don't get a giant paragraph. You paste without formatting. And then you have to actually go through and compare the breaks for when you're numbering your paragraphs to the article itself, right? So this article shows you where each of the breaks are here, the blank spaces. So you want to make sure that your article looks the same. So I'm going to delete the parts that don't need it. So right, the first break is after the word conflicts here. There's a space. And the second break is after 3/4. So I'm just going to go through and put the breaks in like this. Notice that capitalized, I don't want that, so I'm going to go back and make that a lowercase letter. So I'm just going to continue to do that. And once I've put in all of the breaks all the way to the bottom, I'm going to number my paragraph so that I can keep track. I don't want it to automatically format the way that it just did, so I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click undo, and that'll put it back. And I'm going to continue to number paragraphs just like this. It will change some things and it'll start to push words to the bottom. Notice like it just did, it split this right here. You just go put your cursor in front of the word, hit delete and add the space, and it's back. So you're going to format the entire article before you actually begin to answer the questions so that you can reference your textual evidence in the appropriate paragraph. It'll just make reading much easier, and it'll make finding your textual evidence and highlighting it much easier. So once you've done all that, your document will look like this. Notice I've separated all of the paragraphs and I've numbered them all. There are about 25 in total, so it's a little bit more than article number 1. So I've got my article here. I'm ready to read and find my textual evidence. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add the answer numbers in the boxes just for more organization. Okay, and remember we have to pick a color for each of these questions so that when we go and find our textual evidence, we can highlight it in that same color to make it easier to find and support how we got our answer. Okay, so just going to go through, give each one of these a color. So All right, and then I'm going to begin answering my questions. I've already read the article once, so I know what it's about. Now I just need to go back and find the textual evidence that supports the answers. So here I'm looking for the relationship between armed conflicts and income equality in Guatemala. Let me go back up and see what my article says. So I see armed conflicts here. It says, income inequality in Guatemala ranks among the highest in the hemisphere, according to U.S. aid, especially when it comes to indigenous communities most affected by the country's armed conflicts. So I see that where there is more armed conflicts, there's more income equality. That's what it looks like. So let me go back to my question. Yep. So conflicts, income equality. So these are my key words. I'm going to underline them because that's what led me to the answer in the passage here. Okay, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to highlight my textual evidence for question number 1 here. Red, because question number 1 is red. And then I'm going to formulate my answer in a complete sentence. So I want that to format automatically. The relationship between armed conflicts and income inequality is that, in Guatemala, is that where there is more armed conflict, there is increased income inequality. So where there's more conflict, there's a bigger gap, right, in the amount of money that people are able to make. The armed conflicts are things like gangs, cartels, things like that, wars. So whenever those things are happening, the people in the communities are not able to make a lot of money. So that's essentially what this is referring to. Question number 2, why does it take more than 10 hours to reach these indigenous villages? So I'm looking for something that has to do with 10 hours and about travel, right? Because we're trying to reach the villages from the capital. Let me go back to my article. I see 10 hours right here from the capital, so maybe my answer is going to be here. It says, just to reach these villages, it takes more than 10 hours from the capital. The reason isn't the distance, but the narrow, winding roads full of potholes. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this as my evidence for my answer to question number 2, narrow, winding roads full of potholes. And then I'm going to formulate my sentence using proper capitalization and punctuation. So it takes more than 10 hours to reach the indigenous villages from the capital due to narrow, winding roads that are full of potholes. So it makes it difficult to drive. All right. Question number 3, what is the relationship between malnutrition and migration rates? So I'm looking for something about malnutrition and something about migration. Notice that the answers are found in order of the passage. So answer 1, answer 2, so it's not like all over the place. Okay. Oh, this one's a little bit different. I see the word malnutrition here. So it says at 46.5%, Guatemala has the worst chronic malnutrition rate in the hemisphere and the 6th worst in the world. And it soars to 58% for the indigenous population. So let's see what the question asks again. So we know they have a really high rate. I think it's asking about the relationship between malnutrition and migration. Okay, now I'm looking for information on migration. So we know the malnutrition rate is high. Let's see what the article says about migration. So here we are. Some of the departments with the highest poverty or malnutrition rates are also those where lots of migrants are coming from. So where there are lots of migrants, there is lots of malnutrition. So this is the evidence I'm going to use for my question number 3. I've highlighted it in the same answer, the same color. I'm going to type my answer in a complete sentence. The relationship between malnutrition and migration rates is that where there is a high number of migrants, and migrants are people who move from one place to another frequently for work or different reasons. Where there's a high number of migrants, there is also a high number of malnutrition. Malnutrition is access to food and the ability to eat regularly. So I've got my answer to number 3. I've got 2 more questions left. Question number 4 says, why did Pedro Paez leave without his wife and some of his children? So here we're looking for this person's story. I'm going to underline that keyword so I know what I'm looking for in the article. And I know they've been coming in order, so I'm going to look after my question number 3 and see if he pops up. Here we go, Pedro Paez. So it says, he hadn't left before because he didn't want to die in the desert. What would she do with 5 children and no husband? He says, I didn't want to be apart from my children, but it's because of need. We have no land, no money, and no money to build a house. And then it says, Paez left recently with their 9-year-old daughter. He called 6 days later. It says they were in Tennessee after spending 3 cold nights. So it looks like he took one of their children. So let me just highlight continuous clues. So this has to do with question number 4. This has to do with question number 4. This has to do with question number 4. And then let's see why he left with 1 child. I'll keep reading. It says, families seem to know that bringing a child is the most likely the way to get into the United States. So he brought his daughter Olga with hopes that he would be let into the U.S. because he had a child. It says that they hear news that if you travel with children, you're allowed to stay. So here it says a program. It's a special, they believe, right? But that's not true. This word right here says it's erroneously. So it's not actually true, but the people traveling don't know that. So it says, I'll add this. This has to do with answer number 4. So notice there's lots of textual evidence for question number 4. It's a rather complex question. So let me go and formulate my answer in a complete sentence. Why did Pedro leave without his wife and some of his children? So Pedro left to the U.S. in hopes of seeking better opportunity for his family. In hopes of seeking better opportunity. He took one of his children because he believed he would be allowed to stay in the U.S. if he arrived with a minor. Okay, so I've got my answer to question number 4. Stay tuned for the next video where we answer question number 5 and I explain how you can complete your graphic organizer questions for article number 2 and submit in Schoology for credit.